the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Again, this is one of those fluid situations where it certainly sounds like Jerry Jones is in favor of having back Mike McCarthy. I don't know that everybody in the organization feels that way. Mike McCarthy's contract is also up. He's going to have the opportunity to interview in other places. If it comes to that, I could see a place like New Orleans being interested in Mike McCarthy. Also could see this situation flipping and turning, but going into today, it is more likely that he's safe than out, and we'll see how conversations unfold in the weeks ahead, or in the days ahead. Now, a couple of other coaching notes I want to point out. I would expect some teams to call and inquire about the Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian, who's drawn some interest from the NFL level. And one other coaching note. I think that there are going to be teams out there that have watched the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers season has ended and wonder whether they should call the Steelers to see if they should inquire about whether the Steelers would be willing to move on from Mike Tomlin and move him to another organization. I don't think Pittsburgh will do that. That has not been what they've been about, and there's no indication that they would. But I do think there are teams wondering whether they should lob in a call just to see if they could stir Pittsburgh's interest.
To be clear, that would be in a trade scenario involving
Correct.
Mike Tomlin. Fascinating.
But I don't think
obviously.
Pittsburgh does it.
All the way across, and Steve Sarkisian still has a Final Four game to coach this coming week against Ohio State. All right, Shefty, outstanding work, and there was a lot there. Bearing in mind, there are already 3 openings in the NFL with the firings we've seen this year. You see the first 3 names on your screen there would all be one and done were they to be out here. Gerod Mayo, Antonio Pierce, and Brian Callahan. And then the rest of the list that we talked about there. Outstanding work, as always, by Adam Schefter.
Right.
Do you believe that Mike McCarthy, whom I know you have a lot of respect for, has he done enough to keep that job?
Well, I mean, you would think the history would say yes. 3 years in a row that he was 12-5 into the playoffs, albeit they had 1 playoff win. But when expectations are Super Bowl or bust, and you don't make the playoffs, that's why I've hedged my bet on this one a little bit. I'm saying no, I think he's out.
I disagree. I mean, I know that maybe it was their expectations internally. Nobody outside that building thought this roster was good enough to win the Super Bowl this year. They've been devastated by injuries. I think the job he's done, this is one of the few teams that's gotten better as the season's gone on, despite missing some really big players. I think he's earned it. And then again, who's the upgrade? Right? Like this guy's won a Super Bowl. He's a good coach. If you didn't go jump at Bill Belichick last year, who are you getting this year that's more proven than Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, I think that he should stay. I think that he's done enough to keep his job. I've always respected Mike McCarthy as a head coach. And so the decision that Jerry Jones would make to say Mike McCarthy is staying here and being our coach, you know what that does? It puts it all on those players. It's like, I'm not giving you excuse anymore. We're not bringing in a whole new coaching staff so that you have to get used to and all that. We're bringing in McCarthy because McCarthy's done good enough to get all of you players to the playoffs like he's done in the past. Now you got to get the job done. I think it's a message sent to players in that locker room. I think Dak has even said publicly he supports McCarthy. I think you let it ride here and see what these players can do.
Well, again, his contract will have expired, so they'll have to do a new deal with him one way or another. It's not as simple as just keeping him there. It's obviously your arch rival. You compete against them twice a year. What is your sense when you play them? Do you feel like I'm playing against a well-coached, solidly coached team?
Well, I got to give him respect. He got much respect in the league. But right now, the Eagles fans like, yeah, keep him.
Is that right?
Because, you know, on what just happened with us last game, it just, you know, we definitely you asking the wrong person about this one, right? Because Dallas, I mean, I love it right now. I love what the situation they're in because I understand it's just a fun back and forth. But I mean, for me, I know that Eagles fans would agree and keep them so that we can continue to keep beating them.
All right, so the 2 most intriguing names that Shefty just gave us, McCarthy at the end because it's the Cowboys, Gerod Mayo at the top. And you heard Shefty say it. Gerod Mayo was the hand-picked successor to Bill Belichick by the Kraft family. We knew for years that was going to be the line of succession. To give up on it after 1 season, Teddy, no one knows that organization better than you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think to give up on it after 1 year would be not knowing what you were getting in the first place. When I thought it was obvious that with the first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, this was going to be a rough year. Yeah. This was going to be a rough year that you hope they learned as coaches as they went along, and then hopefully at the end, you get a high draft pick to continue to build. I mean, if they go forward with this, I think it's all on Elliott Wolf, the general manager there right now, and what he does with that #1 overall pick. But to get Gerod and these coaches out of there and not let them, you know, learn like you must have anticipated that this was going to happen. I knew there was going to be difficulty here. I knew Gerod was going to have to learn from certain situations. 2 coordinators and the head coach, first time. You don't know how much success you can expect.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to push back on that a little bit is, and Alex, you and I were talking about this yesterday, they played better at the beginning of the season. They have absolutely been atrocious at the end of the season. And you want your team to be competitive and improving. Yeah. We haven't seen that. it is going to be an interesting situation. You got the number 1 pick in the draft. You expect to keep your job when you're the worst in the National Football League? No way in hell. I don't care if it's 1 year, 2 years, whatever. You're out.
Did they hire him for a 1 year and done type of job? Did you not know this was going to take 2 years for someone to learn like this? And I think it would be embarrassing to the Kraft family.
I think
this is your hand-picked success for not just last year, probably the last 2 to 3 years. You've been watching Gerod. You know the kind of person he is, the type of coach that he could become. And for you to cut the cord on this right now, I think it would be embarrassing.
But you're not watching the tape.
Yeah, I agree. When you turn on the tape,
watching the tape.
Listen, they don't play with. They were a tough football team earlier in the year, despite. And I know expectations were low, but they were still tough. They were running the ball, stopping the run. I mean, the last 8 weeks, it's been tough to watch, right? The spirit that they play with, and I think a lot of times that's a sign of coaching. And so I do agree. What are they going to do? Are they going to double down and support him, or do you cut bait and make the change right now?
Well, and I think it's going to be interesting too. You got that number 1 overall pick right here. You're going to get a ton of value because you certainly don't need a quarterback. One of the only things you got right is you got the quarterback right, which is the most important thing. So now they're in a spot to gain a ton. You mentioned the GM. You're going to get a ton of picks for that. I think it's going to be interesting.
The hardest thing to have, they have now, and that is the quarterback. Yeah. They have that. Can these coaches develop with this quarterback?
Hey there, Cowboys fan. Another offseason, another set of burning questions about the future of our team. And this time, all eyes are on Mike McCarthy. Can you believe it? We're sitting here, January 6th, and still no official word on whether he's staying or going. Feels like deja vu, right? Remember how long things dragged out with Jason Garrett? The Cowboys seem to love keeping us in suspense. Now, here's where it gets tricky. McCarthy's contract is up next week, on January 14th. If Jerry Jones wants him back, why hasn't a deal been finalized yet? And if McCarthy's ready to walk away, what's holding him up? The situation feels like a staring contest, both sides waiting for the other to blink first. What do you think is going on behind the scenes? Let's kick things off with a quick vote. Do you think Mike McCarthy should stay as head coach? Type Y for yes and N for no in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know what you think is causing this delay. Is it Jerry being, well, Jerry, or could McCarthy be eyeing other opportunities? This uncertainty has got all of us on edge, but here's the thing. Whatever happens with McCarthy, it's going to set the tone for the Cowboys' future whether we like it or not. Alright, so let's talk about McCarthy's time with the Cowboys. If you're like me, you probably have mixed feelings about his tenure so far. On one hand, the guy has a Super Bowl ring, and that's no small thing. But on the other hand, where's that same magic with the Cowboys? Think about this. And for seasons under McCarthy, we've had moments of brilliance, sure. But we've also had a lot of heartbreak. This season, we went 10-7, but let's be real, doesn't it feel like this team could have done so much more? Between the blown leads and the questionable play calling, it's hard not to wonder if we're leaving potential on the table. Here's a question for you. If you had to grade McCarthy's performance as head coach, what would you give him? Drop your grade in the comments, B, C, D, or F, and let's see what the majority of Cowboys Nation thinks. But here's the kicker. Jerry Jones is known for being loyal to his coaches, sometimes to a fault. Is that what's happening here? Or is Jerry genuinely considering a change? Because let's face it, the pressure is mounting. Fans like you and me are tired of seeing other teams hoist the Lombardi Trophy while we're stuck in rebuilding mode. So, is McCarthy the guy to finally take us to the promised land? Or is it time for Jerry to roll the dice on someone new? Stick around, we're about to get into the potential replacements that have everyone talking. Alright, here's where things get really interesting. Deion Sanders, yep, Coach Prime himself. If you've been keeping an eye on college football, you know Deion has been making waves as the head coach at Colorado. His charisma, leadership, and ability to connect with players have been nothing short of incredible, but could he bring that same energy to the Cowboys? Now, let's not forget Deion is a Cowboys legend. His time in Dallas was unforgettable, and fans still associate him with the swagger and success of the 90s. Imagine him back on the sidelines, leading America's team. It's a wild thought, but hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL, right? Here's where you come in. Would you want Deion Sanders as the next head coach of the Cowboys? Let me know in the comments with a simple yes or no, and if you're feeling extra bold, tell us. Why? Of course, hiring Deion wouldn't come without risks. He's still relatively new to coaching at the professional level, and the NFL is a whole different beast compared to college ball. But let's be real, this team could use a shakeup. Someone who brings not just experience, but a fresh perspective and a winning attitude. The question is, would Jerry Jones actually take that leap? It's hard to say. But with the way fans are buzzing about Deion, it's clear he's on a lot of people's wish lists. Coming up, we'll dive into another intriguing name being floated around as a possible replacement. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Now, let's shift gears to someone you already know well, Kellen Moore. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Moore was part of the Cowboys coaching staff not too long ago, and his offensive schemes gave us glimpses of what this team could really do. He's young, innovative, has a deep understanding of this roster. Since leaving Dallas, Moore has been doing some impressive work as the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. He's shown he can adapt and get the best out of his players. But here's the kicker. Could he step into the spotlight as the head coach of America's team? What do you think about giving Moore a second chance, but this time in the big chair? Would you welcome him back, or do you think that ship has sailed? Drop a comment below with bring back Moore or no thanks Moore, and let's see where the fanbase stands. Bringing Moore back would have its advantages. He already knows the organization, the players, and the pressure that comes with the Dallas spotlight. But let's not forget why he left was a creative differences, a clash of philosophies. Whatever it was, it's worth asking if Jerry Jones and Moore could truly align this time around. Still, you can't ignore the appeal of a coach who knows how to spark an offense. And with the talent this team has, that might be exactly what we need to get back to being a dominant force in the NFC. But hold on to your seat, because we're not done yet. In the final chapter, we'll take a closer look at Jerry Jones' role in all of this. Could he be the one holding this team back? Stick around, because this is where things get real. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room, Jerry Jones himself. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that Jerry is at the heart of everything that happens with the Dallas Cowboys. But is his involvement helping or hurting the team? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's be real, Jerry's passion for this team is unmatched. He's invested his time, his money, his reputation to make the Cowboys the most recognizable franchise in sports. But sometimes, that passion seems to blur the lines between owner and general manager. Tell me, do you think Jerry should step back and let someone else call the shots when it comes to football decisions? Vote in the comments with step back Jerry or stay in control. I'm curious to see where you stand on this. Here's the thing. Every decision from who gets hired as head coach to how the roster is built ultimately runs through Jerry. It's no secret that his fingerprints are all over this team's successes and failures. But could his hands-on approach be the reason we've been stuck in mediocrity for so long? Imagine if Jerry hired a head coach and gave them full control, no meddling, no second-guessing, just trust. Would that be the game changer we've been waiting for? Or is Jerry's control part of what makes this team unique? As fans, we can only hope that the decisions being made are in the best interest of the team. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, a championship. And whether that means bringing in a big-name coach, sticking with McCarthy, or letting Jerry take a step back, one thing's for sure. Change is in the air. So, what's your take on all of this? Should Jerry loosen the reins? And who's your pick for the Cowboys' future? Head coach. Let's light up the comments section with your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep this conversation going. This is your team, your voice, and your time to be heard. Let's make it count.